Right, that's us again. So as you may or may not have been able to tell, or definitely from the thumbnail, but the title was kind of ambiguous, but these numbers are not only unbelievable, they're just heartbreaking. So I'm going to jump into it because the sooner I start, the sooner I don't have to talk about it. Yeah, anywho. Right, let's have a look at this. This is just outrageous. It's so difficult sometimes to remain loving and calm and remember the blessings. But anywho, a Nigerian civil society organization estimates that over 3,400 Christians have been killed by extremists since January of this year, by the way. A number that nearly surpasses the number of Christian deaths Open Doors USA estimated in Nigeria for the entirety of 2020. The Anambra-based International Society for Civil Liberties and Rule of Law, Inter-Society, released a report this week estimating that at least 3,462 of our brothers and sisters have been killed by extremists in only 200 days. They are busy little bunnies. While at least 3,000 Christians have been abducted. The report also estimates that no fewer than 300 churches and 10 priests have been attacked, just in case you were worrying they were going to leave anybody out there. The report comes as global human rights activists continue to raise the alarm about the troubling trend of deadly attacks carried out on communities in the farming-rich middle belt of Nigeria by radicalized, I'm reading now, Fulani herders. And the country's northeast by Islamic extremists. I'm going to pause right there and apologize for whoever did the fact checking on this, because those Fulani herdsmen, or jihadi as I like to call them, are Islamic extremists also. So Inter-Society, an organization headed by Christian criminologist Emeka Umiyagbalasi, relies on what it deems to be credible local and foreign media reports, government accounts, reports from international rights groups, and eyewitness accounts to compile statistical data. So they're not just seeing how they feel about it and then writing something down. Due to the lack of adequate government record keeping, death tolls reported by media outlets or government are estimates and are often, quite frankly, skewed by those same agencies. The number of Christians killed so far in 2021 is just 68 deaths less than the total deaths of Nigerian Christians for all of last year. So by the rate that I'm just estimating, if this is in the last 200 days, it would take some 1 or 2 days to outstrip last year's horrific leaderboard, as it were. Christian persecution watchdog organization Open Doors reported it as 3,530. So there's a small discrepancy if, in fact, Open Doors are on the ground and they are saying it's 88 more deaths than are estimated by this other organization. So Inter-Society estimates that Benue State has the highest number of recorded Christian deaths this year, with 450 recorded deaths. So that's not just a hearsay or anything. Kaduna State, which you must have by now heard me speak of, was second in this horrific, macabre top 10. And that was with 410 Christian deaths. And I'm going to say it again, they're our brothers and sisters, they're in Christ. They're not just numbers. I don't want to go all like The Prisoner, but yeah, they're not just numbers at all. They're mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, nieces, nephews, grandmothers. It's just disgusting. So many have accused the Nigerian government, quite rightly, because I'd be one of them, of inadequately responding to protect its own citizens. I'm thinking double standards. I'm thinking that the fact that the president is Muslim may just be, coincidence. The Nigerian government has continued to face sharp criticisms and strong accusations of culpability and complicity even in the killings and supervision of same, like i.e. the same demographic, the report reads. The country's security forces have so fumbled and compromised that they hardly intervene when the vulnerable Christians are in danger or threatened with attack, but only emerge after such attacks, shocking, to arrest and frame up the same population that had been threatened or attacked, i.e. Christians. Advocates warn that insurgent groups often experience no accountability whatsoever for their actions or receive ransoms for kidnappings. That's very prevalent. Though the government denies paying ransoms to terrorists. Well, they wouldn't think of them as terrorists, would they? They'd just be like an offshoot at this point of the government. Nigeria, which is Africa's most populous country, is within the Open Doors 2021 World Watch list at number 9, although this report doesn't say so, but they are number 1 for, because of course there are 5 different demographics or spheres of life that are taken into account to make up the points. So they're number 9 overall, but they are number 1 for the risk of being murdered for professing Jesus Christ as Lord. It is deeply saddening that to date, those responsible for the anti-Christian, let's just say it, anti-Christ, butcheries in the country have continued to evade justice and remained unchecked, untracked, uninvestigated, and untried, leading to impunity and repeat atrocities. And I would add unhinged to that list of negative qualities. The surviving victims and families of the dead are also totally abandoned by the government of Nigeria. It's pretty damning. Jihadi attacks in West Africa have been on the rise since the beginning of 2021. Nigeria is targeted more than any country in the region, says Christian persecution watchdog, Christian Concern. That's the organization that's linked with persecution.org website. They're very, very good, actually. They've got a report also here that I'll link all of this. There'll be one link in the description and then sublinks within the article. Islamic terrorist groups have killed thousands in the region in recent years. No. Tens of thousands in the last 10 years. Because as we see, in all of 2021, it was around 4,000, I can't remember now, 4,000 and I believe under 100. But I don't believe it's ever decreased year on year or even just once. They seek to impose a caliphate, shocker, and Sharia law because Nigeria weirdly locks up children for insulting Allah. There's a couple of well-known cases. However, in their constitution, there are no blasphemy laws. So that's straight up Sharia. The same Sharia that, I'm not even going to go into it. I can't. So Christians have been specifically targeted and disproportionately affected by this violence. The responses by the government are clearly not enough, i.e. tumbleweed, just going across your screen, as it were, of your imagination. Since the perpetrators of such violence are able to continue attacking Christians and other Nigerians with impunity, if not pride, I would add. And that, for the most part of that quote, was from Lilia Jadi, who is Open Doors Senior Analyst on Freedom of Religion, LOL, and Belief in Sub-Saharan Africa. And that's according to International Christian Concern. The Global Terrorism Index ranks Nigeria as the 3rd country most affected by terrorism in the entire world. On the surface of the planet, they rank number 3. So they've got the number 1 spot for being murdered just for being Christian. They're number 3 in the Global Terrorism Index and number 9 in the extreme levels of Christian persecution in the top 50 worst countries for being a Christian. They're just racking up the accolades. In December, Nigeria became the first democratic nation to be added to the US State Department's list of countries of particular concern, understatement of the week potentially, under the International Religious Freedom Act. Human rights activists have warned that the violence in Nigeria is reaching the standard for genocide. Let me just stop them right there. It reached it and surpassed it. The British government, at least, have had the testicular fortitude to name it as genocide. A commissioner from the US Commission on International and Religious Freedom warned in its 2021 annual report that Nigeria will move relentlessly towards Christian genocide if action is not taken basically yesterday, quickly is what it says. When the world and the US ignored the genocide in Rwanda, hundreds of thousands of people died, said former Representative Frank Wolf, and I think that's Republican VA, Virginia, maybe. I'm sorry, I'm not American. And he said this in a panel discussion on Nigeria earlier this month, and that was hosted by the US Commission on International Religious Freedom. History, he added, is repeating itself. And last year, the Nigerian presidency released a statement stating that groups who claim that a religious genocide is occurring in Nigeria, oh, you've got to love them. Hold on a minute. Let me just get my little violin out. One hot second, everyone. All right. This is what's happening according to this nut job who's running the country. That those groups that claim, like completely justifiably, that a religious genocide is occurring in Nigeria are in fact receiving funding from separatist groups. Like, come on, I don't even need to refute it. It's just utter twaddle. Just unbelievable. Like literally rolled up into his hometown, kidnapped, like, I think it was 200, could have been the 300 schoolboys. And Buhari just sits there on his backside and like, yeah, doesn't even do anything. And it's literally on his doorstep. It's just ridiculous. So I have a separate article, but it's a brief one. The recently held International Religious Freedom Summit in Washington, D.C. highlighted the growing problems surrounding religious persecution all over the world, specifically in places such as China. So that would cover Muslim and Christian persecution, or any theists, I think. I think there's like a state Catholicism or Protestantism, something like that. But it's just, as I told you a few weeks ago, Christ is portrayed as, sorry, I shouldn't laugh, murdering the adulteress, like in the gospel, rather than, you know, drawing the line and saying, cast the first stone, he who has no sin. Oh, no, no, no. He got rid of them and then he like did the job himself. Oh, how blasphemous. Okay, so yeah, China, Pakistan, anyone who's not a Muslim, basically, mainly Christians, also Hindu. Iraq, are there any Christians left there? I know they were like trying to usher them back in, but, you know, once bitten, etc. So, you know, many countries like suffer these, this persecution. So during the event, religious freedom advocates, some of them victims themselves of persecution, took to the stage to highlight the struggle of millions of people around the world, and that would include the 340 million Christians who live at, I believe, high to extreme levels of persecution, which is not restricted to, but includes rape, the rape of your children in front of you, dismemberment, being set on fire, being macheted, having bandits roll up into your village and just set the place on fire, mass school kidnappings, you know, being buried alive, being beheaded after being invited to debate Muslims on religion, false imprisonment, you know, a dimitude, like it just, a lot of stuff goes on. So these victims came and tried to highlight the struggle of these millions around the world, including their former selves, as it were. So according to CBN News, up to 80% of people in the world, I'm guessing, because there's no qualifier or quantifier rather, up to 80% of people live in countries where religious activity is restricted by their respective governments. The pandemic, or COVID, as we like to call it, also ushered in a new type of control. Sorry, you don't say. As authorities locked up churches and prevented the faithful from gathering. That was basically everywhere. Maybe not Sweden at the beginning. At the IRF summit, survivors of religious persecution and religious freedom advocates shared their stories and insights into this like ongoing struggle. To be fair, Christ foretold it. Doesn't mean we have to sit by and not pray like ceaselessly for these our brothers and sisters. So Asia Bibi, you may remember her off the top of my head. She spent 8 years on death row in Pakistan on trumped up charges. I think 3 Muslim women accused her of being disrespectful to the Prophet. And yeah, her brother-in-law had his throat slashed after she was found innocent and acquitted. Her legal team were attacked. I think even one of the judges also. One of the legal team died, I'm pretty sure. At the time, my Prime Minister, who was Theresa May, who, wow, let me not get started. But she said, unfortunately, you know, wringing her hands, we just couldn't guarantee the lady's safety, as opposed to remaining in a country where people, you know, in the street get ripped to shreds, and, you know, young boys run up into courtrooms and shoot American blasphemers in the head in broad daylight and get the one finger salute and the paparazzi like adoring them and become the nation's sweetheart. Couldn't make it up. So she was falsely accused, obviously, of blasphemy. That's a death penalty if it's under, I think, Section 29C in Pakistan. Maybe I'll correct myself. Maybe it's, yeah, I think it is. Oh, no, 3 digits anyway, begins with a 2 and a C at the end, means you're dead if someone falsely accuses you of blaspheming some bandit. Okay, yeah, she was thrown into prison summarily. And she said at the summit, when I was in prison, I was very worried about my children and my husband. That's something the mainstream didn't, well, I say the mainstream, that's something that wasn't really searchable on the internet. I was not aware where they were and whether they were safe or not. At the same time, praise this lady, I had hope in the Lord, she said. Bibi, who was released, 5 years ago now, in 2016, expressed her desire to be a voice for Christians in prison and in difficulties, like generically. Thanks to all of the brothers and sisters who prayed and fasted, because of their prayers, I am now free, she said. Christian brothers and sisters worked very hard for my freedom. Very thankful to everyone from the bottom of my heart. Sudanese Christian Mariam Ibrahim also shared her experience during the summit. She was imprisoned and subsequently condemned to death in 2013 for her refusal to renounce her faith. Extremists called her an apostate. Ibrahim was pregnant at the time of her incarceration, but she didn't know it at the time that she was actually remanded to prison. She gave birth to a baby girl, Maya, in May of 2014. Tursunay Ziauddin, a Uyghur Muslim who escaped the hands of Chinese authorities in the Xinjiang province of China, was also there at the summit. She tearfully recounted her experience of being abused and raped in one of the Chinese Uyghur re-education camps. It's just shocking. The godlessness, the absolute satanic nature of the whole CCP, basically. While she showed gratitude for her freedom, she expressed pain over the ones she had left behind, saying that at times she believed it would be better if I were back in the homeland with them, even if it meant death. I don't want to start on this lady, but I'll just draw the parallel of Asia having hope in the Lord and, knowing that the prayers freed her, and this lady who, doesn't have that faith, that hope in salvation. I'm so shocked that the world is just sitting by and watching. Where have you been? Oh yeah, prison, false charges, re-education camp. The Chinese government has absolutely no shame about this, she declared. Uyghurs like her, who are not subjected to abuse in concentration camps, were heavily watched through surveillance technology, which the Chinese communist regime is exporting to up to 80 countries to use on their own people for religious persecution purposes. And yet, hold on. Nope, nothing. I hear no one screaming about it. That means that the government in those dystopian regimes, I think that's justified, the bad actors can use that technology to monitor who is going to what church, saying what during what sermon, said Nuri Turkle, an American Uyghur Muslim who was also a victim of Chinese religious persecution. Turkle is now a commissioner on the US Commission on International Religious Freedom. I wonder how she feels about Christian persecution. Okay, so Adlai Kejan, founder of Yazidi American Women Organization. That video I put up of the Yazidi woman in the Iraqi parliament. That's just gets me every time. Believes that it is not enough that people offer sympathy, you're damn right, because there's people dying of hunger and thirst. She says, dying of lack of medical aid. This is why International Christian Concern outlined the next steps to ensure that the rate of religious persecution decreases moving forward. I don't know, like that is a matter for prayer. Like that will be a supernatural intervention. ICC is calling for the Biden, oh wow, how hopeless, for the Biden administration to support the IRF ambassador as much as former President Donald Trump, who contributed to international religious freedom growing an unprecedented rate. Don't hear much of that on CNN, do you? Or The View, because of the Trump administration's foreign policy priority, in which religious freedom became a pivotal, this is a direct quote, issue in American multilateral and bilateral policy making. Good on you, Trump. And if Biden remembers all of this before he takes his meds this evening, maybe, who knows? He's already like backtracked on his immigration, let everybody in stance. So, because he was just obviously shilling and appealing to anyway. It also called on the Biden administration, so basically Kamala Harris at this point, to adopt the recommendations of the IRF to send a signal to countries around the world and emphasize the United States' commitment to global religious freedom. Lastly, the Biden administration has been called to make IRF a standing issue, i.e. international religious freedom, in every multilateral and bilateral meeting, and ensure that the US takes every opportunity to fight against governments that persecute their own people, i.e. that government's own people. So the summit was attended by former US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Archbishop of New York and Chairman of the United States Catholic Bishops' Conference, the USCCB, who is Cardinal Timothy M. Dolan, and Speaker of the US House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi, among other prominent US leaders. Let's wait for a photo up and a soundbite from Nance. Oh, negative Nancy. Okay, so I'm back in the room because I cannot cope with just Biden and Nancy Pelosi in the same breath, basically. So that's irrelevant to the suffering of the body of Christ, basically. Welcome to the new member who I see, but I have to just scroll up ever so slightly. Akash, good to see you. Welcome. Okay, so does anybody have I don't know, man, at this stage, what can you say about Nigeria? It's just heartbreaking. It's just awful. So yeah, if anybody has any questions that I'm pretty up to date on this stuff now. Yep, any questions, I'd welcome them, or not. Don't feel pressured into, asking things that maybe I've covered. Stuart, fingers, toes crossed, etc. Okay, so I think, sorry, because I veered off onto, it's not Biden bashing, it's just observations of reality, to be fair. But yeah, I think the chat's caught up in that. But yeah, tens of thousands, mate, it's just so bad, so bad. And while I'm at it, the thought keeps occurring to me that potentially, when one suffers, we all suffer. When one is blessed, we are all blessed by extension, as it were. I just can't help thinking, what if the sins that we're, not repenting for in the West are adding, so that's us suffering in the first place because of that, because of, and then what if their suffering is connected? Well, it is connected, but I mean directly, it's just too much. So please do, when you say your prayers this evening, because I'm confident that you all, I don't know about do, because lying's a sin, but will, once you've done them, yeah, please, during the prayer, just offer up any sins that you've committed that you don't know about, all the ones that you will know about, because you'll be trying to hold them back on your tongue, and just get them, confess it to a friend, pray for forgiveness. God will grant you the repentance, It's all good in the hood, except if that hood is in Nigeria, basically. So, where are we? Yeah, the thing is, Jeff, like I thought it was pretty terrific when Trump and Boris Johnson were on the same world stage, if not for the quite impressive foreign policy at times. Just the comedy value alone for me was just stunning. Watching these people losing their shizzle, like that kind of autistic hissy fit screeching. That's no insult to autistic people, by the way. And yeah, I thought it was great. And now Biden is equally he's not a comedic genius, but I mean the scope is there, and yet it's really serious. Where part of it, wow. If you just took oh my the what's it, the sound bites of Nancy Pelosi, Maxine Waters alone, that Ocasio-Cortez building a bridge into space basically for some green plan, not into space, across basically an ocean, stuff that even a 4-year-old would be like, well, maybe we'll leave that on. Ilhan Omar, wow, just utterly reprehensible. I don't know. I mean, let's have it right. Politicians are paid professional liars, so let's not pretend any of them are going to run for sainthood or anything. However, there's there's lying for a living, and then there's just extracting the urine, if you know what I mean. So I've got that off my chest, even though because I could say not my president, because literally I'm British, so he's not my president at all. But yeah, sort your lives out, America. Please do go to vote next time, because it's embarrassing. But not to worry, we all suffer with the same collective shame when it comes to our representatives. Not least of which when the British Conservative government, whose one of the members is the leader of the House, is a devout Catholic, compared Christian prayer to torture, and basically intimated, I guess my exegesis was that every time every Christmas the Queen is telling us to torture Africa rather than to send out cosmic petitions, as it were. Wow. Okay, so I don't know how I got onto Biden, but politics is my thing, but God is my thing. And when you see an absence, like a deficit of godliness and contrived Catholicism, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. You're better to just come out as I don't know about soulless, but you know what I mean? Just don't mention it. And yet we have a predecessor, mentioning Christ, holding the Bible, even though in a photo op, attending a pro-life rally, the first sitting president, I think, for, I don't know, ever maybe, but definitely in living memory. Anyhow, got that off my chest now. Yeah, predator versus prey. It's a shame. It is a shame. It is a shame. I don't know if anybody knows much about British politicians, but if anyone remembers Tony Benn, he was on the left, but he was a sterling guy. He, and in those days, certainly the left of our political spectrum had, I don't know about a moral leg to stand on, but something that looked like morals, even though it was politics, if you know what I mean. Tommy Walker, I wouldn't have thought so on past experience. That's not to say they're not armed. It depends what you arm yourself with. However, Bahari is just a bit of a wretch, basically, and no support, no recognition, even outright, flat out denial of the situation. But the British government has withheld financial assistance, which good, even though people will suffer, they will. I would, and I can hear the autistic screeching when I said that. However, I would argue that a genocide of Christians is also harming the people there. So, and Britain quite rightly named the genocide of Christians as the reason that they're not getting our money. So, swings and roundabouts. Stop killing our brothers and sisters. I'll send you a tenner myself. Okay. No, it's lovely to see the members here and the admin and obviously everybody else. I don't know why I went all hierarchical for a moment there. Yeah, it's all pretty shocking. I mean, let me not go into American politics, but yeah, what is going on over there, mate? Just undoing as quick as they can any strand, any tiny bit of goodness, and then just basically, admitting that they're lying about all their other policies that that they guilt tripped everybody else, it virtue signaled all over the gap. you know. I mean, seeing as how this is like foreign policy, I guess Nigeria, maybe they should get Elizabeth Warren on the case, because we all know, her heritage is so mixed. Yeah. Yeah, I maybe it's the weather or the TV scheduling or the McDonald's potentially. Like, I don't know, Jordan, but I'm praying for you lot. I got family in your neck of the massive woods, etc. But I think you should all just stop mucking around now and come home. It was only some tea and a little fire at the White House. I mean, we can all work it out. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, me too. I don't know if you're British Predator, but yeah, me too. However, Jacob Rees-Mogg is worth, I did contact him when with this nonsense about anti-conversion therapy for people who say, I no longer wish to be homosexual of their own free volition. And now it's going to be outlawed basically to pray for them or to like have any facilities. But if you want to transition or like convert, as it were, into the opposing sex or one of 73 genders, we're all for it. We are right behind you, unless that makes you feel uncomfortable, obviously, because it's all about the offence and the feelings of the individual. Okay. Thank you, Talitha. I think I'm reading your name right, but my glasses are next to me rather than on my head where they usually are. Okay, so you're very welcome, Dragon. You always say such kind things. Okay, so I am going to, I'm right. My last thoughts, I guess, potentially, because I'm a waffler. Jordan, if you want to look at disproportionate responses regarding lockdowns, just take a look at Victoria in Australia. I think it's Victoria. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Dan, somebody who's his name will be forgotten immediately, like probably by his wife as he leaves the house in the morning, to be fair. But yeah, I think they had one death of a 90-year-old and the entire state, not as a result, but that was their stats. Like, that's it. They're just so like draconian, and one wonders what this is the test run for. You know what I mean? Yes, it's mental. Absolute mental patients running the asylum is what is going on. Okay. All right. God bless you. I'm gonna continue with cooking my dinner, and I will see you all very shortly. Hopefully not for more persecution. Maybe something fun like polemicizing Islam. All right. God bless. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.